and we're live tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, this is August the 14th, 2017. And, well, tonight I'm going to kind of just speak about whatever's on my mind, and we will go from there. But what's on my mind is very, very disappointing that our country has allowed what has been transpiring. They allowed it first to happen and then to continue. But there are some signs that the globe, our country, the United States of America, and the world is starting to pay attention, which is a very good sign. But unfortunately, there still is a massive roadblock indeed. A massive roadblock that 535 people in the United States Congress are causing a travesty in America. Now, we cannot blame the entire 535 people, but we can blame one entire party, for the most part, that has allowed this travesty to actually happen. So I say to you now, this travesty is the man in the White House known as Donald Trump. We must legally, ethically, peacefully, and financially make sure that we find a way for him to either be impeached or actually go to jail for his obstructions, for his conflicts of interest, and, of course, for so many different things. Hold on a minute, please. We know, I'm sorry if you overheard me, but she was distracting me a wee bit. We know that his son had met with Russians. We know there are a lot of things that Donald Trump is getting away with, and we know it is because the Republican Party would rather bring party before our country, party before prosperity, party before common sense. So I appeal to every American, whether you are a Republican voter or Democrat, an independent, or whatever you may be, to call Congress at 1-202-224-3121 and demand that Donald Trump be impeached and, frankly, imprisoned. I believe he should be put in prison. His son and many former campaign members, some of Donald Trump's former and present cabinet, and, of course, anyone who conspired to attack the Clinton campaign. This is far, far, far above politics, above a candidate who wants to get elected. This is the destruction of democracy. This is no over-dramatization, neither. When we cannot ensure that our elections are without hacking, that our elections are without being paid off, that our elections are safe. If we cannot ensure that, we cannot ensure democracy in America, or for that matter, no nation can ensure democracy. If their elections are rigged or hacked, and it is the fault of the Republican Party, they could bring criminal charges and could impeach Donald Trump at once. But they want to be in charge at all costs. They are no different than a dictator. These words will not be soft. These words will not be placated to anyone. Now, you might say, I bet you if they had Hillary Clinton in there and the things that Donald Trump is doing, and they had enough power to block the Republicans, I bet you the exact same thing would be happening. And El Torcaso would say nothing. Well, let me assure you, number one, the Democratic Party would not have done that, will not do that. But I can assure you, had any party, be they Republican, be they Democrat, be they Green, be they Libertarian, be they anything, when our democracy is at stake, when our democracy is at risk, I will not heed my words. I will not mince my words. I will not yield. And if any American claims to be an American and yet sees this travesty and does nothing, then, sir, then, ma'am, you are not a patriot. Then, ma'am, then, sir, you are indeed not an American. You may have been born here. You may reside here, but you do not have the spirit of fairness. You do not have the spirit of equality, nor do you have the spirit and the principles of what it means to be an American. And I submit to you that every Republican in the United States Congress and every Republican voter in the United States of America that has not and will not impeach and or arrest Donald Trump is not a patriot. I say again, if you will not take the actions to protect the very foundation of democracy, and the very reason that our founding mothers and our founding fathers fought and died for and fought and lived for, and many millions of Americans have fought and died for since that great day in the 1700s, and still fight and still serve in peacetime and still live for. If you will not use your voices, if you will not use your pens, if you will not use your wireless phones, if you will not protest in the street, if you will not reduce your $50 a week in your budget to make our economy realize that we are the people and we are the money, if you will do nothing because of your ideology or religion, then you, sir, and you, ma'am, are not a patriot. You, sir, and you, ma'am, are not. I say again, you are not an American. So I suggest that you do not do anything on Labor Day except stay in your house with your head in the virtual sand, watch your TV shows, watch something silly, watch somebody picking their nose online, on YouTube or elsewhere, but do not celebrate Labor Day. Do not celebrate Veterans Day. Do not celebrate Memorial Day. And do not celebrate Independence Day, also known as the 4th of July. Because as long as Donald Trump resides in that office, and as long as deep down you know that he created a fiasco in America, then you, sir, are not a patriot. And you, ma'am, are not either. and you may even be a veteran, and you may even be active duty. But if you do nothing out of fear or out of being happy that your side is in there, then you, sir, be you a veteran, be you active duty, you, ma'am, be you active duty or a veteran, I believe you and I thank you. I thank you for your service. But in this context, you, ma'am, and you, sir, are not. I say again, you, sir, you, ma'am, are not a patriot. This man is an abomination. And Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and the whole of the Republican Party are complicit, and they are accomplices to the crime. They are complicit, and they are accomplices, and they are allowing a fiasco and a disaster not only to happen in America, but around the globe. And now this man, Donald Trump, has put us possibly on the brink of war, which could lead us to the extinction of all life on the planet Earth. And you, sir, and you, ma'am, do nothing. If you are in active duty military, please find a way to get discharged honorably, or in your case, dishonorably, because you are dishonoring everything you supposedly stand for. You are dishonoring our nation. You are dishonoring George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan. You are dishonoring Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And you are dishonoring Theodore Roosevelt. You are dishonoring John F. Kennedy. You are dishonoring every single veteran that ever lived and fought for freedom. This is an abomination, and I personally think that Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, and a lot of the Republican Party would rather have the devil incarnate in office than to admit that a person of their party is causing a fiasco. This must rise above politics. This must rise above religious beliefs. This must rise above all. This is, in fact, exactly what John F. Kennedy meant when he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Rather ask what you can do for your country." I submit to you, every Republican, every Democrat, every independent that does not call Congress, that does not protest in the streets, that does not protest by not buying things in certain stores or at a much reduced amount. If you will not act, you are not an American. If you will not act, you are not a patriot. If you will not act, you have no business being in the United States of America and prospering as a result of our proposed and supposed liberties. The crimes are many. Whether they are not officially crimes, they are certainly unethical on the part of both Donald Trump, his entire administration, and the Republican Party. They may not be criminal, but they are unbelievably unconstitutional, and they are unethical, and they are so unpatriotic. Now, make no mistake. You heard me when I said that those who will not act, whether they be a Democrat, whether they be a Republican, whether they be an independent, a socialist, a libertarian, a constitutionalist, it doesn't matter. Because if they will not act, if they will not make the calls, will not protest in the streets, and if they will not text and petition, if they will not reduce their spending, then they are as complicit as the entire Republican Party. And the Republican Party is allowing America to be destroyed. But make no mistake, the Republican Party themselves, they were willing to take health care away from 16 to 32 million Americans. They were willing to have their fellow Americans die. Let us not placate. Let us not put a limit on the truth. The truth is the truth, and the truth will remain the truth whether you like the truth or not. Their actions would have killed people. Their actions would have killed children with cancer and all diseases. Senior citizens with cancer and all diseases. Women with cancer and all diseases. Their actions would have caused deaths. Their actions would have caused bankruptcies due to medical bills, and their actions would have caused untold and abominable and appalling suffering. So I am no fan of the Republican Party. And I, sir, am proud to say that I am not. I, ma'am, am proud to say that I am not a friend of the Republican Party. Because this Republican Party is not the Republican Party of Lincoln. This Republican Party is an abomination. And thank the Lord thy God that 3 Republicans in the Senate stood firm and for once said, no, I will not give any quarter to evil. I will not placate to what is wrong. You may call me a liberal. You may call me a socialist. You may call me whatever you like, but you cannot call me unpatriotic. I, sir, and I, ma'am, fight for this nation just as much as anyone else. I may not have been able to join the United States military, but I fight. I may not be on the front line physically, but I fight like the heroic Tuskegee Airmen. I believe in our motto. We fight, we fight, we fight. But I hear nothing on the part of the majority of Americans as Donald Trump puts us on the brink of possibly a nuclear war. I see no rush from this Republican-controlled Congress to save the lives of their own families and all Americans. I see no rush on the part of the members of Democrats in the United States Senate or Democrats in the U.S. Congress not having physical sit-ins. I see them not willing to get arrested in order to save lives. So though the Republican Party is guilty, so in de facto is the Democratic Party. When you do not stand, you are part of the problem. I will legally, I will peacefully, ethically, and financially do all that I can, say all that I can, write all that I can to wake up my American brothers and sisters. We are in a massive, massive, dangerous time, my fellow Americans, more than you can imagine, because you may not be aware of all that has been going on behind the scenes. But make no mistake, when you have an entire party, except for 3 lone people, willing to kill millions of Americans and cause the loss of health care to at least 32 million, when you have a Republican Party that is willing to cause a loss of health care to more than 32 million Americans, you have an abomination. But do I see massive protests in the millions throughout America? No, ma'am. No, sir, I do not. Do I see outrage enough throughout every street, every corner in America? No, ma'am. No, sir, I do not. Most Americans have become digital zombies, thoughtless and only thinking of their immediate lives. They have forgotten or never even learned of the words of John F. Kennedy. Words that once again I shall repeat. Ask not what your country can do for you. Rather ask what you can do for your country. I say to every 15-year-old through 160-year-old, you must fight legally. You must fight peacefully. You must fight ethically. And you must fight financially until the entire Trump administration is away from the White House. Until every Republican who was willing to vote to harm 32 million Americans are voted out. Whether it takes 1 year or whether it takes 50 years, we must not yield, America. My fellow Americans, if you truly be an American, stop and drop away from your ideologies. Stop and drop away from your political chains. Think not, oh, if we lose Donald Trump, we'll have a Democrat. Think not in that manner. Think that if Donald Trump is arrested and impeached, and whomever comes in there, think that it is for the greater good, for the insurance that America and the world will still be here, that humanity will be here. Think that it is for the good, for you personally, and your family, and your children, and if you have grandchildren, and great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren, hundreds of years from now. Think not of the next year. Think of the next year to 1,000. Do you love America, or do you only love your political party? Do you love America, or do you only believe in your religion and it doesn't matter what happens to America? Are you a patriot, or are you a fraud? Do you believe that the Lord thy God blessed America, or do you think that we now reside in an America that is an abomination? Up until now, I did not even mention that Donald Trump did not condemn the murder and attack that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. He said all sides were guilty. But yet, the truth be told, only one side was guilty, and that was the white supremacist. Hatred was guilty. The Nazis were guilty. And all that would have our country even worse. Donald Trump said nothing. However, there was enough outrage, not enough to change our nation and get Trump legally impeached and imprisoned, but enough to force this man, who is an abomination, he finally came out and he made another statement. Now, people said, well, we don't understand why Trump didn't condemn the Nazis and the white supremacists right away. But the truth is, yes, you did understand. You may not want to admit it. You may be deceiving yourself. You may, in fact, be a liar. But you knew full and well why he did not condemn them. Because hatred groups, the Nazis and the like, are part of the Trump base. Whether you like the words or not, they are the truth. Whether you be a racist or not, I will not give you any quarter. I will not yield. When it is true, I will speak the truth. When it is true, I will slam it out there for the cyberspace and the real world to understand and hear it. Donald Trump did not condemn originally because that is part of his base. And anyone today who still supports anything that Donald Trump is doing is nothing more than a racist, a xenophobe, a sexist, and a very, very, very evil person. So if you are a Trump supporter at this time, you may once have believed in God. You may once have been a Christian. You may once have been a Muslim. You may once have been a Hindu. You may once have been a Jew. You may have once been a Buddhist. But today I say to you, you have turned away from God. You have turned away. And you are in support of a very dangerous and evil man. And believe me, Mike Pence is no better. He is willing to let millions of Americans die because of loss of health care. So when anyone is willing to let anyone die, I say again, when anyone is willing to let anyone die because of their lack of education, economics, physical or mental well-being, if they are willing to let them die and because of age, if they are willing to take away their health care and let them die, then they are evil. And if you support them at all, then you, ma'am, and you, sir, are evil. And if you claim to be a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a Hindu, a Buddhist, or any other religion, and you support Donald Trump, then I suggest you be excommunicated from that religion, or that you indeed excommunicate yourself. I hold no quarter for evil, and I will not yield. I care not if you are U.S. Marine. I thank you for the service, but if you are a Trump supporter, then you are supporting evil. You may be an evangelist. You may be a minister. You may be a rabbi. But you still have lost your way. So I submit to all Americans, are you truly an American? And if so, start legally, ethically, peacefully, and financially fighting back. Demand that Trump be impeached and imprisoned. That Pence be impeached and imprisoned. That Trump's son be arrested and tried. And a lot of them. We must not allow our nation, a nation created for the equality of all, we must not allow our great nation to be destroyed. And we must not allow our great nation to be destroyed because of our political beliefs, our religious beliefs, or anything else. We must be patriotic Americans, or we must admit that we are liars. We cannot, will not, must not have both. And in the eyes of a higher power, whether you believe Christianity or whatever you believe, in the eyes of a higher power, I said in the eyes of a higher power, it is my belief that the Lord thy God sees, hears, and knows everything. So you may lie. You may go to the church. You may claim to be a patriot. But if your actions or your inactions dictate otherwise, you may lie in this life, and you may even get away with it. But in the eyes of God, I said in the eyes of God, you cannot lie, nor can you hide. And I say this with all the fiber of my being. I'm a sinner, all right, and I am not perfect, but I am and I, sir, believe in the fundamentals of America, that all men and all women are created equal. And I believe in the words of a Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, that America is supposed to be and must have an unfettered and unobstacle, I forget the words right now, but an unfettered way for all of us to have honorable employment and a fair chance in the race of life. Honorable employment and a fair chance in the race of life. Words of a Republican president. I condemn the whole of this current Republican Party. I condemn the Republican Party of the last 30 to 40 years. They are not the Republican Party that once had great men like Lincoln, great presidents and Congresses. Now they have become a piranha. No offense to piranhas. They have become an abomination. They have become a party who wants to get rid of 32 million of Americans and their health care so that they can line the pocketbooks of the multinational corporations. They want to take 32 million Americans off health care so that they can line the pockets of the world's richest people. People that already have enough money for 100 lifetimes. They want to give more money, tax cuts, or tax breaks at the cost of up to 32 million Americans having no health care. The party of Lincoln is an abomination. And the spirit of Abraham Lincoln, if he does in fact see, I believe he is not happy. I believe this Republican Party is an abomination, and I believe the Democratic Party is not too far behind. I believe the Democratic Party could have done more, must do more, and must win elections, and then when they gain back the power, they must, and I say again, must create universal health care for every single American. They must create universal education for every American that wants it. They must not say we cannot afford it. They must find a way to afford it. This is not a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh world country. This is the United States of America. Amen. The same country that landed a human being on the moon, yet would allow 32 million Americans to suffer and many to die. This is not the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy. This is not the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln. This is a government of, by, and for the super wealthy. Both parties are guilty. But the Republican Party is more guilty. How so, sir? How so, ma'am? It was not the Democratic Party that attempted to take 32 million Americans off of health care. But it was the Democratic Party who had power in 2010 and who could have had universal health care. They put their careers before you, sir, before you, ma'am. They put their political careers, not all, but some, before country. And they forgot the words of Republican President Abraham Lincoln. They forgot the words of their own party, the Democratic Party, John F. Kennedy. They even forgot the words of Ronald Reagan. And Donald Trump, an abomination that will go down in history as one of the worst and possibly, well, I'm not even going to go there, but he is definitely the worst president of all time. He is not even a president, in my opinion. But ladies and gentlemen, if this alarm sounds over the top, indeed it should, our lives are hanging in the balance. There's still a threat to 32 million Americans losing their health care. There's a threat that we may end up in battle with North Korea and then ultimately China. And it could indeed be the end of all life on Earth. So if there's a time to sound the alarm, I'm sounding it now. If there's a time to wake up the 16-year-olds who may hear this, I'm sounding it now to wake up. And if there's a time to break with party, break with religious beliefs, and fight for America legally, ethically, and peacefully, and financially, this be that time. Donald Trump must be impeached. Mike Pence must be impeached. And both should be tried and then arrested. Arrested and then tried for acts of treason. And they both should face life in prison. We, the American people, must rise above our politics if we want to survive. And I would say to anyone who believes in a higher power, if you do nothing, then you are not a woman of God. If you do nothing, you are not a man of God. You are evil, masquerading as good. I have said my piece, and I will say it again at another time. But although you may be the snake in the garden, someone loves you. And in a larger spiritual plane, I even love those who have done evil. But they must rebuke evil and change their ways. I'll even give allowances to Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Reverse and rebuke your evil ways. Change, and be a person of God. Change and repent and be a person of good. For it is true. Regardless of how I may feel, somebody loves them. And in a larger sense, I love them. So I say to all of you, remember, sir, remember, ma'am, young man, young woman, that you and humanity and all forms of life really does matter. Thank you. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Now it is time for you to call 1-202-224-3121. And may God bless America and the world.